Alright guys, time to come here back again today. Hope you're enjoying your Tuesday so far, and today we're going to talk about the potential of a players union. Over the last few days we've heard this Toronto drama come out, Bragg versus Toronto. Crimsix has of course waded into the situation with the lack of pay, the brackets he was receiving. We've talked about that over the last few days. Today then it really raises the question, is a players union coming to Call of Duty? Is this going to improve the infrastructure and improve the working conditions for players and help them, I suppose, get some leverage over some of these organisations, which, well, might not be the best run, let's say, from the Toronto Ultras side. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new. As always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Really helps out the channel. Thank you for doing that. Before we get into the players union stuff, let's talk roster mania really quickly indeed. So the CDL came out with this yesterday to say this is what the landscape looks like so far. You know, which players are being picked up, which players are signed. But of course, there's plenty more spots here still to be filled. So FaZe, Huntsman, Empire, OGLA have 3 out of the 4, but well, it's quite likely I think that Draza will actually end up on the bench here. New York Subliners, of course, are still looking for their 4th. Is it going to be John? Is it going to be Hydra? What's going on there exactly? Paris Legion, of course, big question marks, and Los Angeles Guerrillas and the Florida Mutineers as well have not confirmed any single starting player for next season, but definitely, hopefully at least, some announcements to come over the coming days. Silly also mentioned this with regards to the Los Angeles Guerrillas. He's rumoured to be going there alongside Vivid, Apathy and Assault, I believe is the rumoured team as it stands right now. He did a Q&A yesterday and he mentioned, as Chrome points out, I'd like to be somewhere on the West Coast. So I suppose that would make sense if it happened. He did also talk about in the video that he really would like some stability, right? He'd like to be on one of these teams for a couple of years. So, you know, maybe, maybe LAG want to invest a little bit in this team for the long term, but maybe it's not exactly one of the top dogs on paper as we look at it right now with some of the other teams that are being formed. And one of those teams could have potentially been OpTic Gaming Los Angeles, and maybe they will still be highly competitive. Rumored to be TJ staying on that squad, Kenny and Slasher, of course, +1. We heard the rumors a while ago now that it could have been Priest onto that team. That didn't happen. He ended up going to the Minnesota Rocker, and they may still be looking for a 4th. Slasher tweeted this out yesterday, kind of saying, you know, are we waiting for an announcement here, or are we actually just waiting for like a 4th player to be officially signed to the team? Because pretty questionable what will go on with OGLA right now, but definitely if Black Ops Cold War ends up like a more traditional World War II type boots on the ground game, then well, I think this team could certainly be deadly, depending on who, of course, they get as their 4th player. So this is what happened a couple of days ago. Toronto Ultra come out with the truth about Bragg, responding to, well, Bragg saying that they didn't pay him for a month because he went home to see his grandpa when he was having an open heart surgery, and then Crimsix said they didn't believe his like doctor's note or whatever, that he was actually ill, and well, bit of a disaster. So the question then came up once again, should a players union be created for Call of Duty Esports? And it looks like it is certainly in the works based on what Crimsix has had to say, because as we can see right here, we look at, you know, NALCS, for example, League of Legends Championship Series, they have a players association over there. Also for Counter-Strike, for example, the CSPBA is pretty well known, Counter-Strike Professional Players Association, of course, got all these guys sitting around the table. This has been in the works, or well, was created a few years ago now, joined in September 2018, but I believe was in the works for longer than that. So let's just share what Crimsix had to say on the podcast a while ago now, discussing how the players union is in the works and who could potentially be heading it up.
Hey, what's up? It's Jack Stiffen from San Francisco. I got a question. You know, obviously there's been a lot of issues with, you know, league decisions and ownership stuff, and you know, Crim is upset with moving forward with 4v4 without any type of expansion. So would the players be best served forming a players association or even a union? You know, it's already done?
Yeah.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When did
Perfect.
that happen?
Who's the head of the union, Grim?
Who the fuck do you think? Austin Litticoat.
Is he actually?
Liddy?
Really?
No.
I was gonna say, who's actually the who's actually the head of it?
No, I don't think it's like it's in the works.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna
It's
say.
actually important.
If you guys need a leader, bro, I got you guys.
It's got to be a player.
So this is what the Counter-Strike Players Union have to say on their About Us about exactly what they aim to achieve for the professional Counter-Strike players. Worldwide Representative Association of Counter-Strike Players, the CSPPA is player-driven, independent, I think that should be an E, and democratic. Equality and solidarity are key values. The CSPPA aims to safeguard, protect, and promote professional Counter-Strike players' interests both during and in and after their active career. The CSPPA will work to secure the best possible working conditions for players while taking into account the special nature of the industry. Any player who is contracted or actively seeking a contract as a professional player and who competes at an elite level is eligible to be an active member. So of course the main discussion with unions really has been about working conditions. And well, certainly one of the things they talk about largely on their website is mental health and some of the issues of burnout and, well, the things that players tend to face when, they're playing for a long period of time. It was really more a thing where there was actually LAN events. I mean, Counter-Strike, there's a LAN event when, well, pre-pandemic, every other weekend, like, people would be flying out to all sorts of different countries, trying to fit in practice in between, having boot camps. Pretty difficult environment, to be honest, as a player. And honestly, it would be a similar thing in Call of Duty once, this is all over and we're back to LANs, because the plan really was for Activision going into the first season, having players fly out to different, different cities every weekend or every other weekend, have a couple of weekends off. That's effectively what we saw this year, apart from, when it went online, it was less of a big deal. But, still, if we're going to have 12 teams at some point, because in an ideal world, maybe we have every single team at every event, and we have a fair few events, dotted around the world at each of the particular franchise cities, then, at that point, you've got to ask the question about whether players are getting stretched too thin. But of course, the key point in regards to this recent Toronto Ultra stuff is the working conditions, right? We've seen this discussion the entire season long. I mean, Classic had the situation where he tried to go home. I think initially it came up with Looney when during the pandemic he wasn't on the starting lineup anymore. He could still potentially do his responsibilities from home. But Toronto had this, clause in the contract that they said if you're not going to, if you're going to leave Toronto, then, we're not going to pay you or whatever. And we've had this come up another couple of times. We've got Looney, of course, initially, then the Classic situation that happened. I mean, the Classic situation was pretty bad. Don't know if you guys remember, but effectively he got dropped off the team. Then, he went away for the weekend and they brought him straight back into the starting lineup, had a poor weekend, and then dropped him straight away. Almost like they were bringing him back deliberately, just so they would have a bad weekend because he had no chance to practice. And they were scrimming with, I don't know who they were scrimming with, but they were scrimming with a different team. And then Classic returns because they wouldn't allow him to scrim from his home. They'd only allow him to scrim if he was in Toronto. Just kind of weird stuff like this, which, isn't great for the players, right? And we've seen this really happen over the last few years. I mean, the likes of Denial, Red Reserve, Accelerate in the Black Ops 4 season weren't the best organizations, right? And with franchising coming into play, you would have hoped that that was no longer the case. But, well, franchising is not necessarily weeding out some of the bad ownership for some of these organizations. So would a players' union help to step that up? Maybe it's arguable. If it does happen, then who should head up this league, right? Because you really want it to be a current player. You want it to be someone who's, been around the community for a number of years, but is also very much in tune with the current needs of the players. Because the problem is getting someone like TP or someone who's retired at least a few years ago, then it gets to the point where they don't really understand exactly what's going on in the competitive nature of the scene, and it's very different. They haven't played under a franchise team, so you really want it to be headed up by a current player, or at least someone, have someone on the board who's very recently retired and knows some of the main issues that these players face. So I thought this is pretty funny. Came out from Gunners on September the 13th. The Slasher World League wouldn't have allowed this amount of disrespect. I think he was talking about here when the CDL did their awards show, and the Huntsman won 2 awards. They won Moment of the Year when they beat Dallas Empire at the first event, and then they also won Comeback of the Year on the 5-0 Full Sail comeback versus the Minnesota Rocker. Gunners was on those teams both times. He wasn't included in the images, and people have always joked about the Slasher World League and stuff because he seems to be pretty instrumental in the gentleman's agreements. So Slasher World League has kind of been a meme that's gone around the community for a number of different years, but for good reason, to be fair. He definitely has that kind of nature or character to his personality that might make him a good fit for someone like a players union representative. And we also talk about this, for example, whether the players union could potentially have some leverage against the CDL themselves, especially with these competitive integrity issues that we've seen. I mean, this came out from Octane a while ago when the replay happens and all this kind of stuff. And would a players union give some leverage for the players over the CDL if they can say, look, if you don't fix this, we're just going to strike or something like that and not actually play at your events? That'd be a pretty scary prospect for the CDL if a powerful players union does indeed form. And maybe you get to the point where these tweets no longer have to happen again, even though it's good content for the channel. So I'm not really sure which way I wanted to go, but as we can see here, Crimsix talking about Brack. Despite winning the Toronto home series leading to Chavs, Brack, there's no chance he would have been subbed in. One of the most anti-player organizations I've ever seen. So Crimsix, of course, talking about the players union in that tweet. Would he be a good fit? I mean, certainly, right? What he's done for Brack here, maybe it wasn't exactly the best timing, right? Maybe Brack was kind of happy to sweep this under the rug in a sense and then just move on and try and get a spot on a new team. But Crimsix bringing this to light kind of dragged Brack into this whole discussion, and it's kind of become a bigger thing than it would have had to. But then again, Crimsix looking to defend one of his colleagues' interest, I suppose, in the CDL. So I brought up a list here of players, and I rung some of them that I think would be a good fit because they've been around the community for a number of different years, could certainly work as a players union representative or on the board or something like that. And you've got Scump, for example, been around since 2010. He's been playing CoD. Clayster, Crimsix, definitely good examples as well. I thought maybe someone from the European region could be called. I mean, MattG, I don't know what he's really going to be playing next season. season, but Matt and Jed have been around for absolutely, decades really in the Call of Duty community. And well, if he's still playing in the amateur side, definitely he could still have, an option to be involved in the Players Union. Iggs, of course, is a big name. He seems like he still wants to compete next season, so that could be pretty cool. He's definitely an option. And, Paddy P is always a name that's going to come up with these kind of things are discussed. Silly as well is like, maybe an underrepresented or under-respected OG in a sense that he's been around since like CoD 4, playing tournaments from absolutely ages ago. So he, I think, definitely deserves a mention in this. Of course, we've got Slasher as well, which makes plenty of sense. Jacob as well could be involved. He might want to go into coaching though. Gunjo as well, I noticed, on the substitute bench of OGLA is probably going to continue playing in the challenger side. He has also been around a number of years as well. So I wonder how you guys think this should develop. A couple of names here on the Seattle Surge as well. I thought I'd mention Apathy and Enable. OGs of the scene. I mean, Enable played his first LAN tournament on Halo in something like 2006, which is when he was like 12 years old. Remarkable stuff. I've mentioned Karma as well, and of course Merk and TP probably deserve a mention in terms of, helping set this up and orchestrate it, but in terms of like a Players Union representative, you'd probably still need a current player. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Really helps out the channel, helps the YouTube algorithm know that if you enjoyed this content, other people may enjoy it as well. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you next time.